Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Whatcha Gonna Queue. You may notice we have a new background and we are dressed up. Why? Because this is our very special Oscar-themed episode of Whatcha Gonna Queue, in which all of our recommendations will be Oscar-themed. What recommendations? Why, the recommendations for some of the best titles that Netflix has to offer, which are broken down into these three categories. Instant Karma, where we recommend some of the best instant titles to watch before they expire. What the F is This? Where we highlight some of the obscure or overlooked titles buried in the annals of Netflix. And For Your Consideration, where the recommended titles tie into a timely, predetermined cinematic theme. I am one of your co-hosts for the evening, James Franco.
And I'm your other co-host, Anne Hathaway.
Yes, and it is very exciting because here in this envelope I have the winner, the name of the co-host that will be kicking off the show with an introduction in Section 1.
Oh.
Those nominees are Alex Rabinowitz, Jim Rohner. And the winner, the co-host who will be kicking off the show, is Jim Rohner. Man on Wire tells the real-life story of Philippe Petit, a French high-wire walker who, with a small band of constituents, perpetrated the artistic crime of the century in 1974 by wire-walking between the World Trade Center's two towers. Recounted through talking head interviews and black-and-white re-dramatizations, Man on Wire is an uplifting tale triumphing the power of determination and dreams that won the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature in 2009.
I knew he was a nut, or a con man, or something.
Alex, we all know that documentaries are sadly overlooked in the mainstream. So one of the things that the Academy does really well is take, every year, 5 truly exceptional documentaries and kind of shed some exposure on them for mainstream audiences.
Yeah, I had heard of this movie, but never heard of the actual event that it's based on. But what I want to know is what separates it from all the other documentaries out there?
Right, that's a valid question because a lot of documentaries are biographies or just recounting historical events. But what separates Man on Wire from them are really two factors. One, the energetic and just magnetic personality of Philippe Petit, who is the focus of the film. During the interviews, he's jumping around, he's hiding behind curtains, and you just feel his excitement and enthusiasm for the task at hand. And then number two, the way that James Marsh executes those re-dramatizations. Most re-dramatizations and documentaries are just kind of a visual to break up the talking heads, but in Man on Wire, it's very much like building like a fictional crime story in itself. You know, they have the tense music and the people acting out. It's very much like you're watching a crime story unfold with its own building tension and building excitement. It's really kind of fantastic.
The act?
Why did you do it?
There is no why.
Now this is quite different from your normal soul-crushing despair. Why such an uplifting pick?
Well, as we know, the Oscars are a celebration, so I felt I should celebrate the human spirit. And that's exactly what Man on Wire does. It's very uplifting, very inspirational, very life-affirming. A lot of documentaries nowadays, at least the ones that get a lot of press, are those that are uncovering, you know, cover-ups and scandals and just these horrible atrocities. And Man on Wire is great because it rises above all that, and it's just this really inspiring tale that just kind of reminds everyone how powerful dreams and determination can be.
Dreams are a big part of the film I'll be recommending, actually, which also takes place in the 70s in Section 2.
Oh.
In Perspepolis, writer, director, artist Marjane Satrapi transports us to revolution-torn Iran for an autobiographical coming-of-age drama told in vivid animation. Originally voiced in French, the English-language version of the film features the vocal talents of Chiara Mastroianni, Sean Penn, Iggy Pop, and Gina Rowlands. Vincent Paranode co-wrote and co-directed with Satrapi.
Marge, ce n'est pas un comportement digne d'une future prophète.
A little bit of background on the film. Persepolis was nominated for Best Animated Feature in 2007. It ended up losing out to Ratatouille, but it did win a jury prize at the Cannes Film Festival, and as well as achieving 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics, needless to say, love this movie, but it really wasn't well seen or well known because it's a very rare creature and it's a foreign adult cartoon.
Yeah, from a vastly different culture as well, I mean in Iran. But the sign of a really great film like Persepolis is the fact that it can come from an incredibly different culture and yet still have themes that resonate and connect with an American audience like us.
Absolutely, and that's what's so strong about this film is that it has both a unique and universal appeal. Marjane is telling her autobiographical story of how she grew from a young girl into a woman, and that whole idea of self-discovery and going through puberty and coming of age is really universal for all people, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you live in the United States or somewhere far away. Everyone has similar experiences. But the film delivers a unique perspective on an episode in world history that not many people know about in such detail, and that's the Iranian Revolution.
Right, and you mentioned unique because obviously the film lost out to Ratatouille, the giant Pixar machine that everything loses out to these days. But what helps Persepolis stand out was its unique animation style, which really harkens back to kind of a more traditional hand-drawn style.
Right. It's based directly on Satrapi's graphic novel of the same name and same material. And in that, it's black and white, and there's line drawings, there's a little bit of shading and a little bit of color, but mostly it's this very simplistic style, but it uses surrealism and clever transitions to remain compelling and stay beautiful.
Well, it may have lost for Best Animated Feature in 2007, but all the films that we'll be talking about in For Your Consideration have all won, so stick around for those. Continuing our Oscar theme here in For Your Consideration, we're going to be narrowing the focus a bit by specifically recommending two of our favorite Best Picture winners. We've had 82 titles to choose from, so which two could have possibly made the cut? The only way to find out is to keep watching. Unless you're a clairvoyant. And if you are, please email me at jr@magnumediafilms.com to help me win my Oscar poll. Last year, Alex beat me, and he really has not stopped bugging the hell out of me about it.
Hey, Jim, remember last year when I guessed more of the Oscar films right than you, and I was only your intern, and it was really, really embarrassing?
Shut up.
Yay!
Climbing the corporate ladder is much more complicated than it seems in The Apartment, co-written and directed by Billy Wilder. In The Apartment, Jack Lemmon plays C.C. Baxter, a New York City insurance clerk who gets brownie points with his bosses by letting them use his apartment for extramarital affairs. Co-starring Shirley MacLaine and Fred MacMurray, The Apartment won Billy Wilder the last Oscar Gold of his career, with wins for Best Original Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture in 1961.
Hey, you're pretty good with that racket.
You should see my backhand.
And Alex, I love me some Billy Wilder.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm aware.
And I think that The Apartment may be one of the best, if not the best film of his long, illustrious career, because it's just got something for everybody, including great performances from the three leads, including a great off-type performance by Fred MacMurray. It's got a script that is equal parts romantic, hilarious, and gravely serious. And also, it's got those undertones of Billy Wilder's cynicism and social commentary. So there's something that I think everybody can enjoy in it.
And it's also a comedy at the Oscars.
Yeah.
What a concept.
I know. They really don't make comedies like this anymore. The kind that can make you laugh consistently throughout, but also really make you think during and then after the film is done. There's a lot of dimension, a lot of sadness and depth to these characters, and you know, after it's done, it really kind of makes me long for the time when, one, comedies were better made, and two, when the Academy thought that these comedies were worth showering honors upon.
Shut up and deal.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I'm a cold-hearted cynic with no use for love. Is there something for me in this movie picture?
There is something in this talkie for you, you cold-hearted bastard, but also for the hopeless romantics. Remember that at the core of The Apartment is a love story between these two kind of outcast misfit characters in a way that's really heartwarming, but there's also undertones of corporate struggle and of urban loneliness, and like I said, the social commentary. Both are prevalent throughout the film, all the way to the end, in which when C.C. Baxter and Fran Kubelik get together, the hopeless romantic can say, yay, they're going to be happily ever after and they're going to ride off into the sunset. Whereas, you know, the cold cynics, like yourself, can look at this and say, no, here's two characters that had a long history of failing relationships. This could probably just be another chapter in a long book of failing relationships.
Yeah, I like the latter. And I also like 2002 Best Picture winner, A Beautiful Mind, which tells the story of John Nash, a brilliant mathematician who, after a stint as a government cryptologist, begins to lose his mind.
His beautiful mind.
Directed by Ron Howard with a script from Akiva Goldsman, Mind stars Russell Crowe, Ed Harris, Jennifer Connelly, and Paul Bettany.
Congratulations, John.
It's the achievement of a lifetime.
Ron Howard has had nothing if not an eclectic directing career, going from such titles as Cocoon to Splash to Apollo 13 to How the Grinch Stole Christmas to The Da Vinci Code to Frost Nixon. It's all over the place in terms of tone, genre, and intended audience.
Now, this is the second week in a row in which you say something that really raises some quarrels with me, sir, and surprisingly, they both have something to do with the Howard family. Last week, you have the ring endorsement for Bryce Dallas Howard. This week is a ring endorsement for Ron Howard, whom some will say he is an eclectic director. Others, like myself, will say he just doesn't have a style, and that's why he jumps back and forth, because you can never tell a signature Ron Howard movie. And A Beautiful Mind is kind of indicative of that. It would just kind of seem to be this standard, well-executed, but standard kind of Oscar grab.
One man's journey to the greatest discovery of all.
You don't know it's real. This is real.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way about the Howard family. Of course, I disagree. And I think that this film is not just a standard Oscar grab. It has a great script at its core, almost like a more polished counterpart to Fight Club in the way it's using tangibles to portray what in real life would be intangible.
I must clarify and say that I have no problems with Clint Howard, but also them some fighting words there, Alex, because once again, you mentioned A Beautiful Mind in conjunction with Fight Club, which I think is a much better script and a much better film. But one thing that I will give you, and that I will give A Beautiful Mind, is Russell Crowe. I'm normally not a huge fan of him, but I think he has a really great performance in this that the Academy recognized him for a nomination, and I think he's really great here.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Russell Crowe either, but I agree he is a standout. He's delivering career-topping work, very understated and enveloped in this role, and he gets a lot of help from the makeup department, who have to age him many, many years. That guy, also, Greg Cannon, deserves accolades as well.
Sure.
And then you have Jennifer Connelly, who did win for Best Supporting, and she is phenomenal too.
And on top of winning her Best Supporting Actress award, she also won my heart. And I think no matter what we may think about A Beautiful Mind, we're united in our thoughts that the year A Beautiful Mind won, Memento was just criminally overlooked at the Oscars. And speaking of Oscar snubs, perhaps you should tune into next week's episode, where we'll be recommending some of our favorite Oscar snub titles. But before we get to next week, we have to finish with this week. So thanks for watching, guys. If you want to contact us, you can always get us through our social media websites. We have a Facebook page where if you need some Q advice, you can take a snapshot of your Q and post it to our Facebook wall. Also, be sure to click on the Discussions tab where you can see Alex's and I's picks for this year's Oscar winners. Be sure to follow our Twitter account where Alex and I will be live tweeting the Oscars on February 27th. And for the latest news on what's going on in Netflix, streaming, and the world of home entertainment, be sure to visit our blog at whatchagonnaqueue.com. Until next time, guys, remember, you like me, you really like me.